I want you to just close your eyes for a second. Picture the most chaotic, high-stakes place you can think of.
And you're not talking about a stock exchange floor.
No, no, not even a busy ER. I'm talking about a massive industrial construction site. A mega project.
The kind with cranes that look like they're scraping the stratosphere, yeah.
Exactly. You've got thousands of workers, heavy machinery, moving literal mountains, sparks flying everywhere. To an outsider, it just looks like total anarchy.
It looks like a disaster waiting to happen.
For sure. But here's the thing, it's not. If it were truly anarchy, nothing would ever get built.
Right. The fact that a refinery or a chemical plant is standing at the end of the day is, frankly, a miracle of management.
And that is exactly what we are digging into today. We are not looking at the blueprints for the building itself.
Yeah, nope.
We're looking at a document titled E2.5 Construction Requirements.
Which, let's be honest, sounds like the driest title in human history.
It really does. But I started reading it and realized this isn't a manual. It's a constitution. It's the invisible architecture that keeps the whole thing from collapsing.
That's a great way to put it. This document is a strict set of rules the contractor has to follow. It's not asking, can you build this? It's dictating, this is exactly how you will behave.
How you'll think, how you'll speak, everything.
Everything.
And that's our mission for this deep dive. We're going to uncover that hidden layer of control because some of the rules in here, they go from super technical to, well, surprisingly bizarre. We're talking everything from heavy lifting to, what, bird watching?
Bird watching is a huge part of it, believe it or not. But before the birds, you have to understand the stakes. This document is risk mitigation on an industrial scale.
For a project worth maybe $1 billion?
Exactly. You can't rely on a handshake and common sense.
Because one person's common sense is another person's disaster.
Precisely. And common sense doesn't stop a 500-ton crane from sinking into the mud. You need a codified system.
Okay, so let's unpack this system. It kicks off with something called the Construction Execution Plan, the CEP. And right away, the pressure is on. It says the contractor has to submit this massive plan within just 4 weeks of starting.
4 weeks? It's a sprint.
That sounds incredibly aggressive. Why the rush?
Because the CEP is the brain of the project. The employer is saying, before you lift a single shovel, prove you've thought through every single aspect of this job.
If you don't have that plan on day one, you're already behind.
You're already losing money. Standing armies of workers are expensive.
And when you say every aspect, you are not kidding. Section 2 lists what needs to be in this plan, and it goes from item A all the way to CC.
It's the whole alphabet and then some. It covers the entire ecosystem of the project.
Right. I was looking through this list, and some of them are just wild. You've got, okay, item I is site security and traffic.
Yeah.
Fine, makes sense.
Standard stuff.
But then you jump down to item W, which is just heavy lifts.
Heavy lifts. That's a critical category. We're not talking about a forklift here. We're talking about lifting a pressure vessel that weighs as much as a jumbo jet.
Whoa.
If you drop that, you don't just lose the equipment. You could shut down the site for months. You could have fatalities. So you need a specific engineered plan for every one of those lifts.
Okay, then there's item X, systemization. This one sounded like corporate buzzword bingo to me. What is that?
It's crucial for sanity, actually. You don't build a massive plant all at once. You break it down into systems. The firewater system, the electrical cooling system, the raw material intake system. Systemization is just breaking this billion-dollar elephant into bite-sized chunks.
So the CEP is the master strategy guide.
Yes. Think of it this way. If item I, the traffic plan, isn't right, trucks back up onto the highway and the police shut you down.
Okay.
If item A, the preservation plan, isn't right, your expensive materials rust before they're even installed. If the brain isn't working, the physical building fails.
It really feels like the building part is almost secondary to the planning. And speaking of planning, Section 3 has a concept that feels a bit like time travel.
You must be talking about construction organization during the engineering phase.
Yes. It requires the construction team, the people in hard hats, to be involved during the design phase.
This is a concept called constructability, and it addresses one of the oldest rivalries in the industry, the engineers versus the builders.
The classic throw-it-over-the-wall problem.
Precisely. Traditionally, engineers design something in a nice, clean office. They finish the drawings, throw them over the wall, and the builders look at them and say,
"We can't actually build this.
Here's no room for the crane," or "You put a pipe rack right where the truck needs to drive."
So this rule forces them into the same room. It explicitly says they need to use lessons learned from previous projects.
It's deeper than just advice. Look at the specific examples. They require lifting studies to influence road and pavement design.
That one caught my eye. Why does a lifting study change the road?
Well, imagine an engineer designs a standard road, right, to handle 40-ton trucks.
Okay.
But the construction team knows that in 6 months, they need to drive a giant robotic flatbed carrying a 500-ton reactor over that exact road.
And if they don't talk?
The road instantly collapses. The reactor tips over. And you've just lost $50 million and set your schedule back by half a year.
All because the pavement wasn't thick enough.
Exactly. They are literally fixing problems in the future by changing the blueprint today.
It's time travel.
Right.
It also mentions modularization studies, which is basically building giant parts of the factory somewhere else, like Lego blocks.
Right. And again, the engineers have to design it so it actually fits on a ship. It all comes back to constructability.
So we have the brain, the CEP, we have time travel. Now let's talk about the boots on the ground. Section 4, construction organization at site.
The hierarchy. They want a detailed org chart all the way down to the supervisor level.
They want to know who's in charge of who. But this is where it gets really interesting. There's a language rule in here that completely gives away where this project is.
Competency requirements.
So it says key personnel must be fluent in English. Standard. But then the twist. It says for functions communicating with local authorities, personnel must be fluent in spoken and written Dutch.
That's the smoking gun. We're in the Netherlands or maybe Flanders.
But think about what that does to your hiring pool.
Yeah.
You can't just fly in the best project manager from Texas if they need to talk to the local mayor.
They need to speak Dutch. It's about your social license to operate. You have neighbors, local laws, the local fire department.
So it's not just politeness, it's about legal authority.
Absolutely. If there's an emergency, someone has to be able to speak to the Dutch emergency services instantly.
And it goes further. It says if there are competency gaps, the contractor has to arrange training. They have to act as a school.
And notice who pays? The contractor. The employer is saying, I am not paying for amateurs. It's liability assurance.
Okay, so you've got the people and the plan. But you need stuff, materials. Section 5 gets into this term, free issue plant and materials. What is that?
Free issue sounds like a gift, but it's a huge responsibility. It means the client buys the really expensive equipment themselves, a giant turbine, specialized valves.
Okay.
Then they just hand it over to the contractor and say, here, don't lose it.
So I buy the Lego set, but I give it to you to build. And if you lose a piece,
You're in big trouble. That's why the document requires a computerized tracking system to follow every single bolt and beam.
and it's not enough to just know where it is. Section 6.7 talks about a preservation plan.
This is so often overlooked. You've got $1 million pump sitting in a warehouse for 6 months. It's just metal, right?
I would assume so.
Wrong. If you don't rotate the shaft every week, gravity will warp the bearings. If you don't control the humidity, the electronics corrode.
So preservation is basically babysitting the equipment.
Active babysitting. You're fighting entropy while you wait to build.
Let's get into the nitty-gritty of the work. Section 6.1 talks about work method statements, or WMS, a script for the work.
A script for every single construction activity.
Every activity, even like digging a trench.
Especially digging a trench. Trenches collapse, people die in them. So yes, every activity gets a script, and for the critical ones, it's even more rigorous.
And these scripts have to link to a job hazard analysis, a JHA.
Precisely. It's here is how we do the work, and here is how we don't die doing the work. It forces the team to visualize every step. It removes improvisation.
Improvisation is the enemy. I like that. Now, Section 6.3 highlights a priority, early completion of underground works.
It's simple physics. You have to bury the pipes and cables before you build on top of them.
Sure, but it demands 3D modeling of underground works.
Because the underground is crowded. You have firewater lines, sewage, electrical cables, data cable.
And you don't want them running through each other.
Exactly. And there's that call-out about heavy lift transport. You have to plan the underground so it doesn't collapse when you drive over it later.
Constructability again.
Yeah.
It all links together.
Always.
Okay, quality control. Section 6.5 and 6.6 have these weirdly simple titles, cleanliness and tightness.
They sound simple, but they're technical terms. Constructing the works clean means no debris, no welding slag, no soda cans left inside the pipes before you start up.
And tightness is just, it doesn't leak.
Right. but you have to prove it. You need a specific verification plan for both.
Now, Section 6.4 pressure testing has this one rule that I found fascinating. It says items dropped for a pressure test can't be put back at the end of construction.
That's a great catch. That is a very specific quality rule.
Explain the logic. Why would you take something out just to test a pipe?
Okay, so you have a pipeline with a very delicate, expensive control valve in it. You need to pressure test that pipe to, say, 1.5 times its normal pressure.
To make sure the wells hold.
Right. But that much pressure might blow up the delicate valve.
So you take the valve out.
Exactly. You unbolt it, put in a dummy piece of pipe, a spacer, and do the test.
Makes sense. But why can't you just put it back in when you're done?
Because every time you handle that valve, you risk damaging it, dropping it, scratching a seal. They want to minimize handling, so you leave the spacer in until the commissioning team takes over. It's a clean handoff.
Okay, we've covered heavy machinery, underground pipes. But then Section 7 takes a hard left turn into nature.
The ecology risks.
It requires mitigation plans for birds' breeding season. It says this can limit access to the site.
And it does. This is modern construction. You can have $1 billion schedule, but if a protected bird builds a nest on your access road, you stop.
I just love that image, this massive industrial site grinding to a halt because of a bird.
It happens more than you'd think. And the text mentions protected plants, other animals. You have to build barriers, maybe even transplant vegetation.
You can't just bulldoze your way through anymore. You're part of an ecosystem.
And you are also part of an information ecosystem. Which brings us to Section 8.
The social media protocol. This is so strict. No photograph shall be taken and be posted to any form of social media.
And notice it applies to everyone. Subcontractors, visitors, everyone.
So if I'm a visitor and I snap a cool selfie in front of a crane for Instagram,
You're in breach of contract. You're out.
why so secretive?
A few reasons. Security is one. You don't want detailed photos of critical infrastructure out there. Intellectual property is another.
And reputation management.
That's the big one. If an accident happens or something just looks unsafe out of context, the company doesn't want that going viral before they even know what happened.
It's trying to control the narrative in a world where everyone has a broadcast studio in your pocket.
It's a tough battle to win.
So we've gone from heavy lifts and underground pipes to Dutch language exams and bird watching.
It's quite a journey through a single PDF, isn't it?
It totally changes how you see these projects. Construction management is less about bricks and mortar and more about managing risk and chaos.
Absolutely. The invisible architecture we talked about at the start, it's a structure made of rules and protocols. Without it, the physical structure simply can't stand.
But here's a thought to leave you with. This document, E2.5, it only covers the requirements. This is the plan for when things go right.
That is a scary thought.
If this is the level of detail needed just to get to work, imagine the complexity when things go wrong. Does this kind of rigid control actually stifle problem solving? Or is it the only thing keeping the whole project from total collapse?
That is the eternal question of project management.
So next time you drive past a big construction site, don't just look at the cranes. Imagine the mountain of paperwork, the 3D models of the dirt, and the bird-watching protocols keeping it all standing. Thanks for diving deep with us.
My pleasure.
If you're interested in the templates, please visit our shop. The link is in the description.
Thanks for watching. Please subscribe and see next time.